It started with a knock on my door. Not the polite kind, either. This was the kind of knock that made your heart skip a beat, heavy and deliberate. I paused mid-bite of my leftover spaghetti, fork frozen halfway to my mouth. Another knock, same force. My apartment door trembled in its frame. I wasn't expecting anyone. No one ever just showed up anymore. Not unless something was wrong. I tiptoed to the peephole, half expecting a pissed-off landlord or maybe a neighbor with a noise complaint. Instead, I saw blue skin. 2 figures. Identical, impossibly tall, white-haired, and glowing? No, not glowing exactly, more like they absorbed light differently. Shadows clung to them like curious pets. I blinked and looked again. Still there. Yeah. I called through the door. We have arrived, one of them said in perfect English, her voice like wind over crystal. You are Max, yes? That made me step back. Who wants to know? We are yours, said the other. We have come to observe and assimilate. For 1 month. Assimilate. Observe. I opened the door just a crack. That was a mistake. They walked in without asking, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. One was in an orange crop top and yoga pants, the other wore a yellow hoodie that might as well have been painted on her. The strange thing. They looked more human than alien, but every tiny detail betrayed that assumption. Their ears tapered to delicate points. Their eyes were too large, their pupils subtly vertical like a cat's. They moved too smoothly, like their muscles had internal choreography. We were assigned to you after the incident on Zeta Station, said the one in orange. You filed an anonymous transmission on Galactic interference protocols, added the other. You triggered a Level 3 contact exemption. I vaguely remembered a drunken night last month, messing with some alien contact forums. I didn't think anyone was actually watching. We are Leah and Zelly, said Orange Top. We are twins. We are here to live with you. I laughed. It wasn't a real laugh. More of a short, sharp survival reflex. You can't be serious. They were. The first week was chaos disguised as curiosity. They had questions about everything. And I mean everything. Why do people eat cereal with milk? Why do humans cry during movies? What purpose do microwaves serve if not to cook raw meat? They followed me to work, somehow bypassing security like it wasn't even there. Leah, the more analytical one, took notes on everything from my typing speed to how often I scratched my nose. Zelly, on the other hand, was fascinated by smells. She kept sniffing things. Soap. Trash. Me. Your sweat fluctuates depending on emotional state, she told me one night, absolutely delighted. That is, thrilling. I was one bad night's sleep away from losing it. They weren't malicious. In fact, they were bizarrely respectful. They took turns doing chores, learned how to make coffee exactly the way I liked it, and even got into streaming old sitcoms with me. But there were incidents. One night, I caught Leah rearranging the kitchen using telekinesis. She froze, mid-float with 3 mugs orbiting her head. This is not against protocol, she said stiffly. Only discouraged. Another time, Zelly turned invisible. Fully, entirely invisible. I walked into the living room and nearly had a heart attack when the remote floated up and clicked through channels by itself. Sorry, she giggled, phasing back into view. I got excited about that cooking competition. I tried calling the authorities. No one answered. I checked the forums. My account was locked. Someone, some asterisk thing asterisk, wanted them here. Around day 10, I started dreaming about them. Not like that. I dreamed I was floating above Earth, watching the continents burn in slow motion. Leah and Zelly stood next to me, utterly calm. This is only one timeline, Leah whispered. Your choices anchor its trajectory. Zelly reached out and touched my forehead. Decide wisely. I woke up with a nosebleed and a voice in my head that wasn't mine. They didn't deny it. Didn't even flinch when I confronted them. Your species is at an inflection point, said Leah. We are observers, yes, Zelly added. But we are also catalysts. Whatever I thought they were, they weren't. This wasn't some intergalactic social experiment. This was a test. Or a setup? One evening, about halfway into the month, things escalated. I came home from work to find the walls pulsing. My apartment had become a living thing. The lights dimmed and brightened in rhythmic patterns, like breathing. Leah stood in the kitchen, arms spread. "We are sinking," she said. "This structure is not conducive to optimal resonance." "You're, what, renovating my apartment with your minds?" Zelly appeared behind me, startling me. "Don't worry. We'll put it back. Unless you like it." "Do you like it?" "No." I stopped myself. I was too tired. Too drained. And too curious. Because by then, I wasn't just scared. I was fascinated. I'd started keeping my own notes. Watching them when they weren't watching me. They didn't sleep. They didn't eat unless I did. And sometimes, late at night, I could hear them speaking in a language that made the walls shudder. They were changing. Or I was. Maybe both. I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Shadows shaped wrong. The city skyline would flicker for half a second and show something else, towers wrapped in spirals, floating bridges, moons that weren't ours. I wasn't sure what reality we were in anymore. The end of the first month was approaching. Leah and Zelly became distant. Less chatty. More focused. They started speaking less English. More of that weird ripple speech. Then, 3 days before their supposed departure, they gave me a choice. "Stay as you are," said Leah, her voice steady, "and we will leave. You will remember none of this. The Earth will proceed on its current path. Or," said Zelly, eyes gleaming, "you can come with us." "Come where?" They looked at each other. And for the first time, they hesitated. "Where you are needed." The thing was, I believed them. That was the moment I realized, this hadn't been about observing me at all. It was about recruiting. I had 3 days to decide. And that was when everything really started to get weird. The first thing I noticed was that time had stopped. Not slowed, stopped star. Raindrops hovered in mid-air, suspended like glass beads. The digital clock on my microwave blinked 7:31 p.m., frozen. Leah and Zelly stood in the middle of the living room, still as statues. Their eyes were locked on me. "This is a liminal moment," Leah said quietly, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "A pocket between choices," added Zelly. "You're not in danger. Yet." They weren't threatening, not exactly. But something in the air felt off. Like gravity had become opinion-based. I took a step forward and felt the floor bend. "So this is it?" I asked. "You're gonna force me into a decision?" "No," Leah said. "But everything else is waiting on you." They gave me time to think. Or what passed for time in this warped reality. I sat on the couch, watching the paused rain through the window. Every few moments, I could swear one drop moved, just slightly, as if defying the rules. I thought about what my life used to be. Work. Bills. An okay apartment. Friends I barely saw anymore. Nothing remarkable. Then I thought about the last month. I'd seen telekinesis, invisibility, alien architecture, dreams that bled into waking life. I'd heard words that made the walls hum. Smelled places that couldn't possibly exist. And I'd started to change. Physically, I was the same. But I knew things. Random facts about star systems I'd never studied. Emotions I'd never felt before. Ideas that had no place in human language. I wasn't scared anymore. I was hungry for more. "I'll go," I said finally. "Wherever this leads." Time resumed. The clock blinked once and moved to 7:32. We didn't leave Earth. Not exactly. Leah and Zelly explained it like this. The galaxy wasn't a place you traveled to. It was a state of access. Think of the universe like an onion, layered. Humans lived on the crust. The galactic core operated deeper in. "You've been authorized for Layer 4, Zelly said as we walked through the city, now subtly altered. People passed us on the street, unaware. But they weren't the same people. Not really. Some had mirrored irises. Some whispered to devices that looked like glass vines. Buildings shifted shape when I looked away. "We're still in your city," Leah explained. "But not in your version of it. We arrived at a place that looked like a greenhouse merged with a cathedral. Vines coiled up massive pillars. Floating drones tended to glowing fruit that pulsed with soft light. "This is the accessory," Zelly said. "Your induction begins here." Induction into what? I wasn't exactly sure. But I didn't ask. Not yet. Inside, I met others. Not just humans. A tall creature made of polished obsidian and sound waves. A feline being with a voice that tasted like cinnamon. And a boy, maybe 12, whose eyes held galaxies. "You're not the first," the boy said, smiling. "But you're early. Most don't make it until after the collapse." "The what now?" He just winked. Leah and Zelly guided me through the process. Training, but not in any way I recognized. No push-ups or lectures. Instead, they exposed me to experiences. One chamber simulated the death of a star. I felt it happen, every phase, every pressure. Another room let me live a full lifetime as a tree on a distant moon. I remembered sap and wind and silence. Each time I came out, I was changed. Not just mentally. I could see colors I didn't have names for. Hear intentions behind words. Sense gravity shifts before they happened. It wasn't all beautiful. One simulation dropped me into the ruins of Earth, our Earth, after something massive had gone wrong. Smoke, radiation, silence. A cold sun. Leah was waiting when I emerged, shaking. "That's not your future," she said softly. "Not if you act." At night, I'd lie in a chamber that pulsed with low music, letting my mind untangle itself. That's when I began seeing her, the architect. Not a person, but a presence. A female-coded energy that seemed to straddle every layer of reality. She never spoke, but she *watched star. She approved. Zelly told me she was the first sentient being to achieve core alignment. She seeded the galaxy with potential and she was watching Earth now, waiting. "She's interested in you," Leah said one night. "That doesn't happen often." "Why me?" "Because you're already splitting timelines without realizing it. Your decisions create high-variance vectors. The kind the architect studies." I didn't fully get it. But I felt the weight of it. Halfway through the induction, the mood changed. The city began to fray. Buildings twitched. People flickered between versions of themselves. A red light appeared in the sky, growing each day, pulsing like a wound. "The inverse is probing," said Zelly, her voice unusually tight. "Something or someone tipped them off." "What's the inverse?" I asked. They didn't answer. Instead, we moved to a deeper level, layer 5. The moment we transitioned, I understood why they hesitated. It was war. Not in the way humans fight, though. This was psychic warfare. Conceptual sabotage. Languages that unraveled minds. Ideas used as weapons. We passed through corridors lined with containment fields. Inside floated things I couldn't describe, living algorithms, broken timelines, collapsed probabilities. "These are what the inverse leaves behind," Leah explained. "Echoes of destroyed civilizations." I felt sick. "And they're coming for Earth." "They already are," Zelly said. "Your internet. Your misinformation cycles. Your societal division. All seeded. All accelerated." My stomach twisted. "So what do we do?" They looked at me like the answer was obvious. "We prepare you." The second phase of training wasn't gentle. They stripped my perception down to raw input. No filters. No language. Just pure data. I floated in a void where time was a choice. I saw Earth as it really was, sick, yes, but not doomed. I saw pathways. Solutions. Innovations that could steer us right. But each one came at a price. Some required letting go of old systems. Others needed radical change, sacrifices. And one path led through fire. A controlled collapse. A necessary purge. That's when the architect finally spoke. Her voice wasn't a voice, it was emotion rendered into shape. "You must choose which future to plant," she said. "And who you will be to see it grow." I woke up in a chamber surrounded by Leah and Zelly. "You've seen enough," Leah said. "Now comes the real work." "You must return," Zelly added. To your version of Earth. But you won't be the same. And what about you too? They looked at each other. We're staying. But we're always near. I stepped into a door made of starlight. And fell. Back into my apartment. Same couch. Same microwave. Same clock. 7:32 p.m. Only now. I could hear everything. The city breathing. The data moving. The layers shimmering under the surface. I wasn't normal anymore. And Earth had no idea what was coming next. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, but because I shouldn't star. My mind was wired into something much bigger now. Closing my eyes didn't bring rest, it brought visions. Pulses of data. Coordinates of events yet to occur. Faces I hadn't met, whispering truths I shouldn't know. Earth had never been this loud before. I stood on my balcony watching the city, hearing the vibration of lives stacked on lives. Some sounds were familiar, sirens, traffic, laughter. But beneath all that was something deeper. Layers of transmission. The inverse was here. I could feel it crawling through networks, whispering through wires, seeding chaos through whispers disguised as truth. It wasn't a single thing, it was doubt weaponized. And now that I'd been altered, I could hear its chorus like static on the edge of every thought. I wasn't just back to live my life. I'd been sent here to push back. But how? The first time I saw them again, they weren't whole. Leah appeared in a flicker of light between two blinks. No sound. Just presence. Half there, shimmering like a reflection on broken water. You're not supposed to be here, I whispered. We never left, she said. You've just changed your angle of perception. She reached out, fingers phasing through my arm. A shiver crawled across my spine. The inverse is accelerating, she warned. And they know who you are now. Great. That's just fantastic. You're not alone, she added. But you must find the others. Then she was gone. I started noticing people. Not just anyone, them star. People like me. Changed. Tuned. They weren't obvious, but if you looked just right, you could see the shimmer. In their eyes, in the way they moved, in how they reacted to certain frequencies. A busker who played music that made people cry for no reason. A barista who could calm angry customers with one glance. A homeless man mumbling equations to pigeons that listened star. We didn't talk directly. Not at first. We left signs. Symbols drawn in fogged-up windows. Coins stacked in impossible ways. Phrases left in chalk on sidewalks that only someone like me would understand. Then one night, I found her. She called herself Iris. We met in an abandoned theater lit only by emergency exit signs. She looked normal, hoodie, jeans, dark circles under her eyes, but she wasn't. Her presence hummed star. I could feel her mind brushing against mine before we even spoke. You're the architect's pick, she said, not even looking at me. Apparently. That's bad. That means it's worse than we thought. Iris had been changed years ago. Not by Leah and Zelly, but by another pair of observers. Not twins, shadows. She didn't remember their names. Only that they vanished after her induction. They always vanish. It's part of the design. What is? Loneliness. It's a filter. Separates the ones who adapt from the ones who collapse. She wasn't bitter. Just tired. We started working together. Her ability. She could see misinformation like smoke. Every lie in a newsfeed or a speech or a corporate memo left a visual residue for her. We used that. Tracked patterns. Followed trails. My ability. I could influence causality in small ways. Not change the past, but nudge the probability of things happening in the present. A bus running late. A phone call dropped. A trigger not pulled. We made a good team. The inverse hated us. It began subtly. Lost time. Days that didn't line up. People who remembered events that never happened. Alternate headlines appearing for seconds before flickering back. A whole subway train vanished one night, no wreckage, no alarms, just gone star. They're destabilizing anchors, Iris explained. turning certainty into suggestion. If they push hard enough, they'll break through fully. We weren't enough. So we recruited. The architect hadn't picked just me. There were more hundreds, maybe thousands, scattered across the globe. Some were already active, others still waking up. We called ourselves the interface. No structure. No headquarters. Just connections. We communicated in fragments, encrypted files, half-buried code in public art, the occasional real meeting under layered identity shields. Some of us had powers. Others were just brilliant, or empathic, or wired into systems no one understood. We started pushing back. Correcting misinformation before it spread. Disrupting energy pulses the inverse used to fracture social cohesion. Healing timeline tears with concentrated intent rituals. Don't ask, it worked. But every time we won a small battle, we lost something bigger. The inverse was always learning. Then came the black event. I woke up one morning and couldn't remember the last week. Neither could Iris. We called in others. Same thing. A full 7 days * missing star. Security footage was scrambled. GPS logs didn't align. Even satellites showed corrupted data. It was a test, Leah said, appearing briefly in my mirror, flickering like bad reception. They needed to see what they could erase. And what did they learn? That you remember. Even when no one else does. That makes you dangerous. The inverse had targeted us. And failed. Now, it was war. Iris and I found a convergence point beneath the city, an ancient structure buried so deep it existed on multiple layers at once. Leah called it a seed core. The architect planted them in civilizations long ago, designed to bloom only when a species was ready. We weren't ready. But we had no choice. It's not a weapon, Iris said, circling the structure. It's a * signal star. A broadcast point. Broadcast what? She placed her palm on the obsidian stone. It lit up like a sunrise. Hope. Activating it wasn't simple. We needed intent, magnitude, and consent. In simpler terms, belief, power, and permission from the planet itself. Leah and Zelly returned fully for the first time. You're close, Zelly said, eyes bright. But not aligned. Earth must want this. How do we convince a planet? Leah smiled faintly. By becoming its voice. We initiated the pulse. Every interface member across the world activated their local nodes. It didn't look like much: flashes in alleyways, tremors in forgotten buildings, patterns drawn in sand. But together, it synced. The seed core bloomed. Reality shivered. People around the world felt it: a lightness, a connection, a brief clarity. Some called it a spiritual moment. Others dismissed it as a solar flare anomaly. But we knew. The planet had answered. We had consent. You've passed the third trial, Leah said as we stood under a sky now filled with unfamiliar stars. What's the fourth? I asked. Zelly stepped forward. You bring the galaxy here. Not the other way around. And with that, our final mission began. The final mission didn't begin with fanfare. There was no dramatic music, no cinematic moment where the interface assembled like a team of heroes. It started in silence. The morning after the pulse, Earth felt different. Not in any big, flashy way. Just clearer. Cleaner. Like the static had been turned down and the signal finally came through. People smiled more. Fights that would have happened didn't. Posts online shifted tone. The world didn't fix itself, but it felt like it had been given a choice it didn't know it had, and for once, it chose better. But Leah and Zelly were right. The job wasn't to escape to the galaxy. It was to bring it here star. We began preparing Earth for contact. Real contact, not military, not corporate, not political. Human star. Raw and honest. That meant confronting all the things we'd avoided. Fear. Power. Greed. Not erasing them, but acknowledging them. Integrating them. We couldn't pretend to be something we weren't. The galactic community didn't want perfection. They wanted awareness. Maturity. Willingness to grow. The architect spoke to us again. This is the final filter. Will you reflect, or will you project? We chose to reflect. The interface expanded. Quietly, steadily. It became a whisper network, then a movement, then a philosophy. It wasn't about fighting the inverse anymore. It was about building something strong enough that they couldn't break it. We taught people how to listen not just to each other, but to the planet. To the asterisk layers star. To the quiet guidance of a cosmos that had always been there, just out of reach. We built small nodes in forgotten places, abandoned train stations, old libraries, beneath rivers. Places that already carried memory. We seeded them with harmonic technology from Leah and Zelly's realm. Resonators. Stabilizers. Echo bridges. They didn't make things easier. They made us more asterisk us star. And that was the point. On the final day, we gathered in the convergence field. It looked like an empty desert from the outside, but once inside the boundary, reality shifted. You could see the layers. Feel time flowing like a breeze. Iris was there. So were others. Familiar faces. Changed ones. Even the boy with galaxy eyes, now grown. And Leah and Zelly. You've done well, Leah said. The seed has bloomed, Zelly added. But the choice is still yours. A platform rose from the center of the field. It was simple, circular, stone, humming with light. The activation point. You step forward, Leah said, and the galaxy steps through. Earth becomes seen. And if I don't? You retain the veil, Zelly said. Your people continue alone. Not doomed, but slow. Safer, perhaps. Everyone looked at me, and I thought about everything. The doubt. The change. The loss. But also the joy. The wonder. The evolution. Earth was ready. Not perfect. Not unified. But asterisk ready star. I stepped forward. Light. Not blinding. Not painful. Just, true. The kind of light that doesn't come from a bulb or a sun but from understanding. I felt it wash through me. Through the interface. Through the planet. Every mind touched, every heart pinged. An invitation sent. And on the far side of the stars, someone answered. The sky changed that day. Not dramatically. Not apocalyptically. Just enough. New stars became visible. Objects shimmered and disappeared. People around the world dreamed of cities made of song, forests of logic, oceans that remembered names. Contact didn't come with ships. It came with asterisk recognition star. Leah and Zelly stood beside me, watching the new sky. It is done, Leah said. Earth is now seen. What happens now? I asked. Now, Zelly smiled, you live. They faded, not like disappearing, but like returning home. I never saw them again. Years passed. People started to change, not biologically, but spiritually, culturally, mentally. Contact shifted us in ways language couldn't capture. The interface faded into myth. But its work remained hidden in the harmony of cities, in art, in tech, in the quiet instincts of a planet that had started paying attention. I lived a full life. Taught. Traveled. Loved. Grew old. One night, sitting under a sky filled with new constellations, I felt a familiar presence. The architect. Just watching. Approving. And I understood something I hadn't before. The point was never to join the galaxy. It was to asterisk become worthy of being part of its star. Asterisk asterisk moral, asterisk asterisk. The universe doesn't wait for perfection. It waits for asterisk willingness star. You don't have to be the best to matter. You just have to asterisk choose asterisk to matter. That's what changes the world. One choice. One step. 1 month with alien twins. And everything can change.